When children used to come to our masjid, the school children, to do a school visit, I would ask them that, can you see those steps? It's weird, isn't it? Where are they going up to? They got steps going into the wall, nowhere. What is that? I said, that goes into a very special land. I used to tell the children, you go into a very, like you've read The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, right? Goes, who's willing, out of you, tell me, who's willing to try to go up there and go into that land? Right? And interesting, when it's young children, it's like somebody's like, yeah, I don't mind, they're a bit reckless, aren't they? It looks like that, doesn't it? That wardrobe or whatever that. Everybody's read that book. It's unfortunate. It's a reference point. I wish we had some Muslim books that had, some better storylines. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala al-mab'uthi rahmatan lil alameen. وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين. So alhamdulillah, we're on page 140, number 87, which is a bit about kind of interesting miracles today. Ibn Ata'illah's Hikam, Allah bless him abundantly. This is what he says. He says, الطي الحقيقي أن تطوى مسافة الدنيا عنك حتى ترى الآخرة أقرب إليك منك. الطي الحقيقي أن تطوى مسافة الدنيا عنك حتى ترى الآخرة أقرب إليك منك. This will make a lot more sense to people who've read stories of the awliya, who've heard stories of the awliya, how they're able to sometimes, or people in general, how they're able to traverse long distances in a short amount of time. There's some fantastical stories sometimes of somebody who's being seen here and then he's seen in Makkah on the same day. He hasn't taken a flight, he's seen literally at the same time. How is that even possible? And if somebody can even do that, whether by using a jinn or whether by the karama of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does that mean? How are we supposed to interpret that? How are we supposed to take that? Is that something we should be even looking forward to, that, yes, if I do enough dhikr, I should be able to do this. I don't have to pay for flights anymore. I can go to Uzbekistan one day and I can go to, Baghdad the next day. What's the purpose of all of this? This is what he puts into perspective. So he says, the real journey is when the world's dimension is rolled away from you so that you see the hereafter closer to you than yourself. It's a bit of a loaded statement. He says the real journey, and I think that's a very good translation, to be honest. I'm actually doing another translation of this, inshallah. Make dua that we get it done. The real rolling up of folding of distances. Let me put this in perspective before we start. The Prophet ﷺ said that you should travel at night because the earth is rolled up and folded up at night. Now that could be taken in the spiritual sense, sense of qudra, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in reality makes the distance shorter, so you get there faster. But you notice that at night, if you travel, you do usually get there faster. And that could be for a reason that there's less traffic, there's less waiting at traffic lights and other places, and you just get there faster. So there could be just one of those reasons, that there's less impediments and obstacles and blockages and traffic on the way. But then we also believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if the Prophet ﷺ is saying this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala contracts the earth, then there's the level of that. You're not going to see that suddenly, where you're following the junctions and then suddenly it's going to skip from junction 5 to 7. You won't see that. It doesn't work that way. With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it works behind the veil. So you don't feel it, but suddenly you're there. Have you noticed that sometimes you get to a place faster than you expected? And at other times it just takes longer than expected. Right? There's a feeling, there's a sense, and there's a timing wise as well. And sometimes you just get there really fast. It doesn't always happen, but it happens. So he's saying that those who are obsessed with these things about trying to attain a form of contraction where you can do things faster or get to places faster or go and have this huge holiday somewhere and then come back and you're at the same time, you haven't grown older. Things like this that you hear about in stories. Now, a lot of these stories, even if they're non-Muslim stories, they're inspired from somewhere. They're inspired from a tradition of some sort. And obviously, this has been something that has been possible among many faiths. the ability of the friends of Allah and other people to be able to do strange things. That's a reality. No, it's just everybody can't do it. Now, whether it's directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's given them the capability to do that as a miracle almost, or a miracle, or if they've just used the jinn to do things, because jinns can do these things, as Allah mentions in the Quran when Sulaiman alayhi salam wanted the throne of Bilqis to come very quickly. So one of the jinn said, I can get it over to you before you get up. That's fast enough, right? From sitting down to just get up and it's here, that's fast enough. But then another guy said, no, I can get it for you even faster than that. What's faster than that? Just before your eye turns from left to right. Just the blink of an eye. So all of these things are shown that they are within the realm of the possibilities in this world. Physics might not be able to explain it, but they are within the realm of physical possibility according to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why when people look at these and like, I wish I could do this as well. You know, I wish I could see into people's heart and see what they're thinking, right? And stuff like this. I wish I could just pull out lots of cash from underneath my prayer mat. That was, some people are able to do that. They just put their hands in their pocket and they've got money there, right? Allah subhanahu, but those are people who aren't greedy. They're going to be people who are assisting people. So Allah gives them this ability just to be, mashallah, pulling out money. He's not going to give that to a greedy person usually. And I don't know if any jinn can do that unless he steals it from somewhere else and brings it to you and puts it in your pocket for you, right? There are probably certain things that I don't think jinn can do unless they do it by hook or crook as such. So anyway, he says, At-tayyul haqiqi, the real folding up of whatever, right? Contraction, doing something faster and quicker, is that when the world's dimension is rolled away from you, when the whole world, your journey in this world, your love for this world and obsession with things in this world is rolled away so that your hereafter looks much closer to you than yourself. Meaning the akhirah becomes an absolute reality to you. So then if anything becomes a reality, for example, I'm going to travel to Canada, for example. It's a month away. And I'm like, I'm not even thinking about it. I've got so much else to do. I don't have time to think about it. But if that was the only thing that I did and I wasn't very busy, I would be planning for that every single day. Some people do. Their suitcases packed a week in advance. They've made schedules and, itinerary and everything. I can't do that. I don't have the time for that. I know it's coming, right? So I'm going to get ready towards the end, like, hey, I need to go in 2 days. Let me figure this out now. This is our situation with the akhirah. We all believe it's there, it's coming, but we're so distracted by everything else so that we don't focus on it. So he's saying that the real rolling up is when all of the stuff of the world, all the occupations and distractions of the world get so rolled up that akhirat is in front of you, which means you start preparing for it. Now the beauty of preparing for the akhirat from now is very different from the burden of having to prepare for a marriage 5 months in advance. Preparing for a marriage 5 months in advance is a massive burden. It's a headache. It's stress. There's so many stresses related to events. So if you have to prepare something 5 months in advance, you'd rather that it just came up and within a month you have to get married or you have to marry somebody else. It'll be just easier because there's less stress. It'll still get done. Over 5 months of it, you have to shopping every week. You have to start thinking about this and that. It's just on your head. But with the akhirah, it's a good thought. It's a good occupation. Because what that does is it sobers us. It gives us sobriety, right? It makes us feel that we need to do things right. It makes us more refined and enhanced in what we're doing. It keeps us away from trouble. It keeps us away from doing wrong. No, we don't have time. Look, the akhirat is here. That's what he's saying. That's essentially what he's talking about. That's the real rolling up. That's what you should be looking for. That's what's beneficial for you. Any other rolling up, it's just a distraction. It might happen, it's just a distraction. So now this is our commentator, Allah bless him, explains this in more detail, that what kinds of rolling up are available out there. He says, at-tayyu. The word he uses, at-tay, means to fold up and to bring together and to become contracted together in a way that something long becomes short, something big becomes small, So for example, in Arabic, the way you use the word tawaytu thawb, I folded up the cloth. So the cloth was 2 meters, you folded it up, mashallah, it became very small and you put it into a little packet. That's essentially the idea, that things get folded up, so it becomes shorter distance to manage. According to the Sufis, according to the people of spirituality, there are 4 types of folding that takes place and that people have experienced. One is tayyuz zaman, the folding up of time itself. Then tayyul makan, the folding up of place. So that's more like distance. And then there's the tayy of dunya, that the dunya becomes folded up. And tayyul nufus, and the nafs gets folded up, or people get folded up. Right? We'll explain each one of them so we get an idea. The first one, which is to do with time. This is a strange one. I'm sure you've read stories about it. This is where, in some cases, and you've experienced it in fact, sometimes, mashallah, the time goes so slow that you get so much done in that time. You get an accomplishment. Many things are accomplished during that time. And at other times, the time flies and you don't get anything done. Yesterday, I got multiple things done in those same 2 hours. And today, in those 2 hours, no. Why didn't you just check? You probably were online or something. That's why, right? But even otherwise, this is not only an online issue. This has happened from before. This is human experience. And then as we get closer to a day of judgment, time is going to contract and just start flying anyway, as it has already. Kaman, for example, in some cases, time feels, in fact, I've personally experienced it after traveling quite a bit. In some countries, time just goes slower. And in some countries, it goes faster. So I think there's definitely a kind of a social effect on this. In some places, time goes slower. I guarantee you go to a village and time will go slower. And you come to a fast one and say, London, it's too fast. And New York and California is even faster. Right? There's a lot that make a difference. Just the way people talk to you, people, what they're doing, how rushed people are, all of that makes a difference. So then he says, like, for example, somebody who has lots of years have passed for him in one place, but in another place, things have happened very quickly. For example, he mentions a story, right, of a guy. He goes out in those days when you didn't have showers in your home. So he goes out to the Euphrates River in Baghdad to take a bath. And it was on a Friday. He's taking a bath for Friday, for Jumu'ah. He goes in the morning to take a bath. In fact, close to Zawal. So just before Jumu'ah. When he finishes his ghusl in the water, he comes out with his basic clothing on to find the rest of his clothes that he's gonna dress into. And he doesn't find his clothes. His clothes have disappeared. Right? His clothes have disappeared. So he tries to find a way, and suddenly he finds himself in Egypt instead, in Cairo. Instead of Baghdad, mashallah, he finds himself in Cairo. And he gets married there. It's a fantastical story, right? He gets married there. You just hope it could happen to you, right? Adam Saab kya khayal hai? Ho jaye, right? I mean, he must have made some effort to get married. It didn't just happen. Like, she wasn't waiting at the door there. Like, yep, yeah, I was waiting for you, chill, right? Anyway, it's basically goes and spends a life there. He gets married there, and he gets children as well. He stays there for 7 years. In that count, he stays for 7 years. And then it so happened that Allah wants him back in Baghdad. So he goes to the River Nile this time to take his ghusl for Friday before Zawal. And as he finishes, he's coming out and he doesn't find his clothing. So he tries to go and look for them, and suddenly he's in Baghdad again. Before Salatul Jumu'ah, that same, in fact, is not 7 years later. In that same Jumu'ah that he left Baghdad, he's back in Baghdad. In that same Jumu'ah, those same clothing that he left there, he finds. And there's a longer story to this, which is mentioned by Imam Farghani in his Ta'iyya. We're not going to go there. But that's the story. He had a nice time, mashallah, with a new life, children, and now suddenly finds himself in Baghdad. I don't know if he went back to Egypt to find it or not. I don't know which line. This was in Narnia or somewhere. I don't know. Right? Wallahu a'lam. Subhanallah. When children used to come to our masjid, the school children, to do a school visit, I would ask them that, can you see those steps? It's weird, isn't it? Where are they going up to? They got steps going into the wall, nowhere. What is that? I said, that goes into a very special land. I used to tell the children, you go into a very, like you've read The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, right? It goes, who's willing, out of you, tell me, who's willing to try to go up there and go into that land? Right? And interesting, when it's young children, it's like somebody's like, yeah, I don't mind, they're a bit reckless, aren't they? It looks like that, doesn't it? That wardrobe or whatever that. Everybody's read that book. It's unfortunate, it's a reference point. I wish we had some Muslim books that had, some better storylines. So it's one of those kind of stories. He doesn't age at all. He comes back and he's in the same place. It'd be very nice if you could do that, actually. Right? You come back to the same place, your wife doesn't even know. Right? But then the wife might do something and the husband won't know. Subhanallah, Allah khair kare, Allah maaf kare. So that was anyway, Tayyu Zaman, if it's ever happened to anybody. Right? Has it happened to anybody? Has anybody experienced anything like this? Nothing? No? Okay. Tayyul Makan, place. I've definitely explained the next one. Tayyul Makan, which is, well, no, not at that level that he's talking about, which is that a person finds himself in Mecca and then he's also somewhere else at the same time. And this is something that has happened. So just some years ago, there was some big wali of Allah. I don't know him. I've never known him. But it was mentioned that he was originally from Pakistan. But he lived in Mecca or Medina Munawwara. On the day he died in Mecca, Medina or Mecca or Pakistan. I can't remember which, I've forgotten the details. He died in one of those places. But he was seen in the other place at the same time on that day. People are like, I just met him. What do you mean he just died? Like if he died in Karachi or Lahore or wherever, I just met him in Mecca. How do you do that? So who did the guy meet? So this is within the realm of possibilities. Now, if somebody claims that and comes to you and says, I can do that, well, good for you. I don't have to. So what? What am I? Take me and then I'll believe you. So you don't have to accept, but if it happens, then it happens. You can't deny somebody's experience unless the guy's kind of crazy, right? So ultimately, that's what they're saying. And he says that this is well known for the awliya of Allah, that this can happen to them. Then let's move on to the next one, is Tayyud Dunya. This is the real one, where the world becomes contracted. The world becomes contracted for us. This is where, this is the one that we should be looking for. And this is the one that would be praiseworthy. And that would be actually very beneficial for us. The other is just a source of kind of honor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if He wants to give it to us. But this one is the one that we really need because it benefits us, which is when the world rolls up in our eyes. So that it's not extended, that we have to keep focusing. We'll still be living in the world, but our focus will become the hereafter. So we'll see the akhirat closer. That means that we'll now deal with the world with a focus on the akhirah. So the world will become enriched. وحصول اليقين التام في قلبك حتى يكون الآتي عندك واقعا أو كالواقع. This is when you get so much conviction about the hereafter. Just like I said that if this was my first trip, when it's your holiday that you've never had for a while, you're thinking about it every day, what I'm going to do, and you're planning and so on. I don't get to do that anymore, right? It's just there's too many trips, so you just don't even plan. But if you can plan, then every day you're thinking about it. So you're thinking of the akhirah. It becomes so yaqini, so decisive, so definitive, and so definite that it is as if it's occurring. That it's an absolute reality. La ilaha illallah. That's why Ibn Ata'illah will say later in another aphorism, لو أشرق نور اليقين في قلبك لرأيت الآخرة أقرب من أن ترحل إليها. That if the light of conviction and yaqeen is to become illuminated in your heart, you will see the akhirah closer to you than your journey to it. Even your journey to it, like, okay, I've got this long left, it'll be faster than that for you. It's like such a reality because it's so important, and we're going to know that we haven't done enough. So it's going to feel closer than actually our journey because we know we don't have enough time for it. You know when you're late about something, right? And you just don't have, you know you've got X, Y, and Z to do before you leave and you don't have time for it. That journey is too close, isn't it? That's what it's saying. That's what would happen to you. The sense of urgency would come up to you. وَلَرَأَيْتَ الدُّنْيَا وَكِسْفَةَ الْفَنَاءِ ظَاهِرَةً عَلَيْهَا. And then you would actually start seeing the dunya in its true sense, and you will see that it is something that is dead. It's not worth it. It's not worth focusing on. You will see it like that. We'll deal with that one. We'll comment on that when it comes. Okay, and the last one, what is the last type of folding up of something? فَهُوَ بِالْغَيْبَةِ فِي اللَّهِ عَنْهَا. This is when the world, when the world, the nafs, right? When the dunya becomes, it's in a different perspective. So the dunya becomes veiled in our sight due to Allah. Allah becomes such a reality that the dunya is just something we're just going through. You know when you're so excited about something and that excitement is such that you ignore everything in between. You're going to go and have a meal at some very important place where you really enjoy that meal. Somebody offers you something in between, like, no, that's tasteless today. Because that's what I'm going for. I've had it before, it's amazing. Right? So, وَلِذَلِكَ يَتَحَقَّقْ الزَّوَالُ وَتَمَامُ الْوِصَالِ. So that's why he's saying, the Shaykh said, لَيْسَ الشَّأْنُ أَن تُطْوَى لَكَ الْأَرْضِ فإذا أنت بمكة أو غيرها من البلدان إنما الشأن أن تطوى عنك أوصاف نفسك فإذا أنت عند ربك. He's saying that there's no accomplishment that the earth rolls up for you and you can go far distances just like that, or you can travel in first class. I mean, let's take it physically, that you travel around first class around the world. What's the big deal enjoying that and enjoying this and, you know, having lunch in this restaurant and going there and going to the Maldives and wherever else. That's not. He says the real accomplishment. No, so then sometimes you're in Makkah or sometimes you're in some other, country enjoying the beach or whatever it is. It's no big deal. I'm in Umrah one day and Hajj another day and then, enjoying somewhere else another day, and you got your own private jet and you just go around. What's the big deal about that? Innama sha'nu, the real accomplishment is that your characteristics of your own self, meaning what you enjoy, what you want to do, all of that is all rolled up and you're by your Lord already. You're already by your Lord. That's really the real thing that we should be looking for. See what this Shaykh Ibn Ata'illah does, and may Allah reward him abundantly, is that he literally just tells us the reality of everything. He puts everything into a perspective that we get to understand that yes, we're indulgent in it, but we shouldn't be. We should move, we should do something about it. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to follow and benefit from this. I guess that is the first step. If we don't even know that this is the reality of these things, where we're going to go with it. So then he's saying, هذا هو الطي الحقيقي المعتبر عند المحققين. According to the good scholars, this is the real rolling up of something. That's what you should be focusing on. لا طي الزمان أو المكان. Not the rolling up of time that you might be able to go to Narnia for a while. Right, or Baghdad, like that guy did. He went to Egypt. أو المكان. إذن قد يكون استدراجا أو مكرا أو تخيلا وسحرا. Because those things could actually come out to be just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leading you on, deceiving you, giving you some rope, letting you just enjoy the wrong things because you're just not getting it. It could just be a plot of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against you. Or it could even be imagination. It could just be a fantasy. Or it could be magic, because these things can happen through magic and things like that. Saying that's not really the karama, because that could even be magic. People can do this. فَالطَّيُّ الْحَقِيقِيُّ. The real rolling up of something is when the dunya becomes rolled up, all of it. Until your maut and death is closer to you than yourself, meaning than your heart, which is between your two sides. Your death seems even more closer in terms of urgency. That's why Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu used to say, كل امرئ مصبح في أهله والموت أدنى من شراك نعله. Every person wakes up in the morning among his family members. It's another great day, mashallah. The dawn has risen, the white thread of dawn has risen. Whereas the death of he's woken up from a sister of death, from sleep. But he says his death is still closer to him than the straps of his sandals to his feet. How close they are. If the straps aren't close to your feet, then you can't wear your sandals. That's why the Arabs used to use that. It doesn't really work so well in English because we don't think of it and relate to it like that. But the Arabs used to always talk about, it's closer than the sandals on your feet. The sandals are completely touching because for them to stay on your feet, they have to touch. Otherwise, what are you going to be wearing? And then until you actually don't take a journey away from the dunya, and there's nothing of the dunya left in your heart. You're physically here, but there is nothing of the dunya left in your heart. That is when you will start going to the kingdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's when you'll actually start seeing the reality. And this is why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ad-dunya khutwatun, ad-dunya khutwatu mu'minin." The dunya is just one step for a believer. Yes, he may be 70 or 80 years, but it's just one step. Which means that if you get the akhirah, because that's so closer to you, this is just going to pass. Because your whole focus will be for the sake of the akhirah, and your dunya will not be glamorized, will not be developed for the wrong purpose. And akhirah will come very, very fast. And the way to do that, he says, is by renunciation of the world. So then one of the scholars, he said, لا تتعجبوا ممن يدخل يده في جيبه فيخرج ما يريد. Don't be astonished and fascinated by the one who puts his hand in his pocket and just pulls out whatever he wants. Oh, you need this? Here you go. You need some money? Here you go. Right? You need X, Y, and Z? It's for you here. Don't get excited about that because that can happen. ولكن تعجبوا ممن يضع يده في جيبه ولم يجد شيئا. Be more astonished by the one who puts his hand in his pocket and doesn't find anything inside. وَلَمْ يَتَغَيَّرْ, but still does not change. Meaning does not change and become messed up. And doesn't agonize. He deals with it. He knows how to deal with his poverty because he's given up the dunya. That's the one you should be really. وَقِيلَ لِأَبِي مُحَمَّدَ الْمُرْتَعِشِ. Abu Muhammad al-Murta'ish, somebody said to him, إِنَّ فُلَانًا يَمْشِي عَلَى الْمَاءِ. That guy can walk on water. You seen a guy called Dynamo or something? He walks on water. Right? قَالَ عِنْدِي مِنْ مَنْ مَكَّنَهُ اللَّهُ مِنْ مُخَالَفَةِ هَوَاهِ. He says, I know somebody who Allah has given him the ability to stay away or control his nafs. Do you know that? Which one is better? The one who controls the nafs so he doesn't let it go anywhere wrong, or the one who can walk over the Thames, the river Thames, right? Or the Hudson River, right? فَهُوَ أَعْظَمُ مِنَ الْمَشْيِ عَلَى الْمَاءِ وَفِي الْهَوَاءِ. That is greater than the person who can walk over water or he can fly through the air. And the only way to go against the hawa, which means the nafs and desires, is basically by renouncing the world, because then you don't feel like doing it because you've renounced, or you don't care about the world. So the nafs is pulling us to the world. One great sheikh, he said, لا تفرحوا للفقير إذا رأيتموه يصلي كثيرا أو يذكر كثيرا أو يصوم كثيرا أو يعتزل كثيرا حتى تروه زهد في الدنيا ورحل عنها ولم يبق له التفات إليها. Don't get impressed. Don't be so impressed and excited by a so-called pious person who looks pious. If you see him praying so much, we usually get impressed. MashaAllah, he prays so much. Or he's remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's always doing dhikr. It's clearly an impressive thing. But he's saying, no, look a bit more carefully. He could be doing lots of dhikr, fasting a lot, stays away from everybody a lot. Real thing you should see is until you see him renounce the dunya and go away from the world. That's what you should be really looking at. If somebody does all of this, but mashallah, people are bringing him big gifts and he's collecting lots of money, Allah forgive us, that is not considered to be an abundant. That's not, he's just using all of this stuff for the wrong reason maybe. فَحِينَئِذٍ يُفْرَحُ بِهِ وَلَمْ يَبْقَ لَهُ الْتِفَاتٌ إِلَيْهِ. Yes, if he's gone away from the dunya, he's got no concern for the dunya, even though things might be coming at him, then you will see, then that's something to be excited about. And you should be excited about such a person who's renounced the world, even though his salat is not as much as the first person. He's doing his fara'id though. He doesn't do many extra nawafil. He might not even be doing tahajjud. And he doesn't fast Mondays and Thursdays, right? And he doesn't do that much extra dhikr. He does his, basic dhikr. And he's with people, but he is not into the dunya, even though he's with people. That's what you should be. That suddenly, see, because many of us, when we want to become pious, what's the first step? Stop sins and make sure we do our obligations, and then we do a bit extra, do lots of tasbih and, want to fast. That's what we do, right? We don't think of the dunya though. Like, look at a lot of people who want to change themselves. What do they change? They change their sinning and their worship. Increase their worship, decrease their sins. How many people actually focus on the dunya? That's usually, some people do, but that's not the priority. The first thing we think about are those things. Not to say that's a bad thing, but he's saying the real thing is this, because that is what makes you do all of this extra stuff anyway. If you can just take our dunya out of us, to just use it for what it is, and focus on the preparation of the hereafter, then everything becomes moderated. So that's what we should be thinking about. That's why he then says, وَمِثْلُ هَذَا تَقَدَّمَ فِي مَا قَلَّ عَمَلٌ بَرَزَ مِنْ قَلْبٍ زَاهِدٍ. That's why no action is going to be seen as little if it comes from a heart that's renounced the world. Because the heart that's renounced the world, there's going to be no dunyawi attachments to the action. It's going to be full of ikhlas. Because what's giving a problem of ikhlas is doing it for this reason, that guy will be impressed, I'm going to get this out of it or whatever. He says that somebody having a lot of knowledge does not indicate towards him having good understanding. Having lots of knowledge doesn't mean he has good understanding. I mean, clearly you need understanding to have knowledge, right? Because how did you understand it? But he says the real understanding, prudence, right? وَلَا مُدَاوَمَتُهُ عَلَى وِرْدِهِ. Neither his being so regular on his wird, meaning on his litany. What really indicates towards the light in somebody's understanding is his being totally independent and suffice with his Lord only. Like he just cares about what his Lord thinks and doesn't care about what anybody else thinks. وَإِنْحِيَاشُهُ إِلَيْهِ بِقَلْبِ. And for him to just completely be focused on Allah with his heart, and for him to have been freed from the slavery of his greed, and for him then to be embellished with a sense of scrupulousness, particularity. That is when his actions will actually become good that he's been doing all this time. And that's when all of his states will become pure and purified. So this was said by the Shaykh of Ibn Ajiba, or the Grand Shaykh of Ibn Ajiba, but he says, unfortunately, while this is absolutely true and understanding, only the people who really understand this path are going to understand what we're talking about here. Because it's a very high level discussion, this is, he says. He said, usually what you have to do is you have to strive first. Mujahada comes first. You have to strive first. Then you're going to start seeing the realities of things. If somebody thinks, if Allah could just show me the reality of the dunya, it'll just make life easy, it would. But Allah wants us to see the mujahada, to try to break away, because He's telling us it's wrong. He wants us to make an effort to break away. Then after that, things will become very, very clear. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq. This is how Shaykh Abdullah Gangohi explains this and summarizes it. He says, miracles or karamat that Allah Most High awards to His saints, such as traversing huge distances in a minute, are not what one aims for in the path, nor something to hanker after. Traversing distances miraculously is not necessarily the trait of accepted servants. In other words, if someone possesses the ability of traveling huge distances in minutes, it does not follow that he is necessarily an accepted saint of Allah Most High. It's not a dalil for that. It's not a proof for that. It is quite possible that a man can acquire such powers by various exercises. You can find it on YouTube maybe, how to do it. There'll be somebody telling you how to do it. I guarantee you, there's going to be somebody telling you how to figure this out. If you chant this, or if you invoke this spirit, or something like that, you'll get it. Don't, I mean. But it's probably there. So he's just trying to say that anybody can actually do this. Even while a person could do it, even if he is not obedient to the sacred law. A seemingly miraculous deed displayed by an irreligious person, a non-religious person, is just an act that leads that person further away. Istidraj. The true journey is to wrap up the distance of the world from in front of one's heart. Meaning, not only to expel the love of the world from the heart, but not to permit it even to pass near to the heart. One should eliminate the love of the world so that the day of judgment appears to be nearer to oneself than one's own self. The heart gains the ability to traverse the distance of the world when Allah Most High inspires the servant's heart with the light of certainty. With the inner illumination of this light of certainty, one will gain the reality of the Quranic expression that say, truth has arrived and falsehood has perished. That is the real truth. جاء الحق وزهق الباطل. This is the real truth, that the akhirah is so close. At such a time, the world will be completely annihilated from one's heart. And that is the bounty of Allah. ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ يُؤْتِيهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. He grants it to whomever He wishes. وَمَا ذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ بِعَزِيزٍ. And that is not difficult for Allah to do. So He's just encouraging us that Allah will give it to you. May Allah bestow all of this upon us, and may He accept our prayer. Actually, He has got a dua there, mashallah. So that's essentially the idea, that yes, use the world, have the world, but don't let it be in your heart. We have the world for a purpose. That's the simple thing. You want to make extra money? Why do you want to do that? Have a justified reason and make all the money in the world you want. As long as it's not violating your salat and all the other stuff. If it's violating your salat, then it's just wrong anyway. That's the main thing. Make lots of money. Become an entrepreneur. But have a reason of why you want to do it, and make sure that you're not sacrificing anything more important. And carry on. And Allah Ta'ala give barakah. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام وتبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام اللهم يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث يا حنان يا منان لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا واهدنا وارزقنا اللهم اشف مرضانا اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا هداة لمن اهتدى اللهم احفظنا من البلاء والآفات والمحن اللهم جنبنا الفواحش ما ظهر منها ما بطن اللهم يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث. Ya Allah, have mercy on us and the entire ummah, and relieve our brothers who are suffering. O Allah, accept us and accept this gathering, Ya Allah. However weak we are, Ya Allah, however sinful we are, Ya Allah, remove us from that and make us your chosen servants. O Allah, contract the dunya for us in a way that the akhirah becomes a reality. O Allah, allow us to focus on what is correct and what is right and what is beneficial. Allow us to be practical and productive in our life. Protect us from wasting time. Protect us from wasting time. Protect us from wasting this valuable time and this capital that you have given us, Ya Allah. Assist us, protect us and our children and our descendants and progeny till the day of judgment. O Allah, assist and help all of those who are in your path in whatever form that they're assisting and trying to do something. O Allah, assist them, Ya Allah, assist them, Ya Allah, assist them. O Allah, all of our permissible needs, O Allah, we ask you to fulfill them. And O Allah, we ask that you, all of our masjid projects that we have, O Allah, accept them. O Allah, accept all those who are here, all those who are listening. O Allah, all those who will listen. And O Allah, the entire Muslim world. O Allah, protect us and bless us. Allow us to be useful individuals. Subhana Rabbika Rabbil Izzati Amma Yasifuna. Salamun al Mursaleen. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Birahmatika ya Arhamar Rahimin.
The point of a lecture is to encourage people to act, to get further, an inspiration, an encouragement, persuasion. The next step is to actually start learning seriously, to read books, to take on a subject of Islam and to understand all the subjects of Islam, at least at their basic level, so that we can become more aware of what our deen wants from us. And that's why we started Rayyan courses, so that you can actually take organized lectures on demand whenever you have free time, especially, for example, the Islamic Essentials course that we have on there, the Islamic Essentials Certificate, which you take 20 short modules, and at the end of that, inshallah, you will have gotten the basics of most of the most important topics in Islam, and you'll feel a lot more confident. You don't have to leave lectures behind. You can continue to leave, to listen to lectures, but you need to have this more sustained study as well. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.